Welcome to episode 419 of Salcedo Paranormal, and tonight I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page, and that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. If you'd like to support the show, there are a few different ways to do that, but I'm skipping a section, so I'm going to go back here. Thank you for listening to the show, whether it's in the live streams or on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or if you listen on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of two of my shows every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And I want to thank, as always, Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio and Liam Martin, Rohan of the Exiled Minds podcast for producing the show that you hear as you hear it on the station with all the music and everything. So, if you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. First, you can always share the show with others. Also, rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice. I have written some paranormal fiction and nonfiction books you can check out over on Amazon. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly to help with expenses such as equipment, research materials, and also now events that I plan on going to. As of right now, it's just one every year. This Mid-Michigan Paracon. Of course, those are all things that require money. So if you would like to help, never any pressure, but I have a few donation links, PayPal, Venmo, and Patreon. And coming soon, hopefully either next month or in August at the latest, I will have Patreon exclusive content. Probably just one episode of True Paranormal Stories from the Web every month, maybe more eventually, but it'll be at least that one episode. And I'm really excited about that. Just a way to give back to anyone who decides to support me on Patreon. So all those links can be found in every episode description. And like I said, help is never expected, but always appreciated. So that means I can get to the stories here. And I have a couple left over from the last one of these shows. So I'll start with those, and then we'll go from there. Thank you all for being here, and also for those that were here a little bit early, thank you for your patience as I had a little minor delay. But anyway, here we go. This first story says, this happened one night when I was around 10 years old. My uncle arrived home at around 2 a.m. after attending a friend's wedding. The next morning, my grandmother informed my uncle that her friend had passed away the day before, which was the same day as the wedding, but in the morning. My uncle was shocked to hear this, because he claims to have seen the friend sitting on a bench around 1:30 a.m. while he was walking home from the wedding. My uncle was confused by seeing the friend at the time, but did not question the older woman's presence. According to my uncle, he waved at her, and she stared at him and smiled briefly. I asked if the uncle had consumed too much alcohol, but he denied it. I am looking for similar experiences or explanations from others. So that's where the story ends. These kinds of stories are always amazing to me. The ones where people don't even know that they are seeing what could be a ghost. And just like this case here, where I'm guessing the uncle knew the friend that that the grandma was talking about, and there's so and thought it was just that person alive in the area, and so but then it turns out they weren't. Just looking at the chat here, thank you all for being here. This is there is no phone number for the show, just so everyone knows. I do sometimes we'll have call-in shows where the call-in is basically through Discord. But it's I sort of don't do those, and I don't usually take live calls unless it's a planned show. Of course, I may change that if I start getting enough people that that ask about that. The comment I'm referring to is the second person now that has mentioned it, so maybe soon I'll start working that in. I apologize for any inconvenience. It's just hadn't planned on that and haven't had a lot of requests for that yet. So I'm really amazed and grateful that I've had even 2 people ask about that. But yeah, so anyway, but thank you again. I see you in the chat there, and thank you. So, but just yeah, so the writer's uncle had no idea that the person that they saw had already passed away. And until the next day, until the next morning. Well, I mean, the later on that same morning after we got back home. But that is amazing because then you're not thinking, you're not in that fear state of thinking that you're seeing a ghost. You're not thinking anything paranormal at all. And so that's just amazing that when that happens, and I've heard so many stories like that over the years. This is not uncommon at all. So really neat story there. I would wonder if that place where the writer's uncle encountered the woman that had passed away, if that place was important to her in some way. Maybe, I wonder if it was, since it was along the path of him going home, I wonder if she had been checking in on the grandma as well, or stopped by to say hi or goodbye, or I wonder about that. Of course, it doesn't seem like anything else happened that night. So if she did stop by, apparently there was nothing else that happened at the house itself. But yeah, so really neat story there, and glad to hear that when these stories sort of happen, it's pretty hard to dismiss it in a way. So that's what I always like about those kinds of stories. Moving on to the next one here. This one, let me see here. Get back to the file. Okay. This one says, my great-grandmother passed away in 1994 when I was 4 years old. I remember parts of my great-grandmother's funeral vividly. I played Ring Around the Rosie in a cemetery with some other kids. I remember laughter, spinning, and falling to the ground. I remember white glowing dresses and nostalgic feelings. I think one girl had long blonde hair, but I do not remember their faces. I shared this memory with my mom, who said there were no other kids at the funeral. I would like to know if others have had similar experiences. So really interesting story there. I wonder if those other kids were maybe, I don't know, spirits. I don't know if they were some kind of other entities that were just there, that were there sort of to help. Maybe other, um, to use the term loosely, angels or guardian spirits or anything like that, are just there to sort of be there for the event, or for not the event, but I mean for the ceremony, to help with maybe the transfer or the transition of the great grandmother's spirit. If they're even people that she knew, that would just there appeared there as kid in sort of some sort of a childlike form. I don't know, but that's a neat story there. You hear so many stories about kids who have had imaginary friends. This isn't exactly the same thing, but where there are other kids, but then no one else ever sees them. I wonder if these were sort of, again, not to be, not that this is ever a good thing that anyone passes as a child, but if these are their spirits that did pass and maybe were sort of connected to that cemetery, maybe they were just there and they just wanted to make the writer as a child make them happy if they could, make it less of a negative, possibly negative experience, or if they just wanted company. I think there's that option as well. So, really neat story there. And yeah, so I don't know. It's that's the amazing thing, as I always say about cemeteries. There's such a wide range of experiences people have there, from this kind, which for the writer was very overall positive, even under the circumstances. I mean, I'm guessing at 4 years old, the writer maybe didn't have a ton of memories about the great grandmother, but still, just an amazing experience. Let me see here. One moment, please. All right. So, yeah, I don't know how else to explain that, but really neat story. Maybe some kind of residual thing, energy that the writer at the time was just able to pick up on somehow. I don't know, but a lot of possibilities as always, and I don't claim to know how any of this works. So, moving on to the next story. This one says, at around 2 a.m., back in March of 2022, I was watching videos online with both of my computer monitors turned on. I felt a sudden cold chill passing through me, and both monitors went black at the same time. The cold chill disappeared, and the monitors turned back on. I looked online for information about similar occurrences, but couldn't find anything. I wonder if it could have been a paranormal encounter. The way everything happened all at once was very strange. So, the disruption of electronics at the same time as this sort of, whether it was physical, or I'm guessing it was physical, but the sense or this feeling of a presence, possibly, is really amazing. And let me see here. I'm looking at trying to figure out something here. But yeah, so I don't know if what was going on there, but it sounds like there was maybe some energy that passed through. And so really neat story there. The whole disruption of electronics, that is not totally uncommon either. Although I haven't really heard of monitors completely blacking out. I've heard of flickering, or I don't know. I don't think I've heard any story exactly like that. Heard of flickering lights, of course. Excuse me, and similar things, but Yeah, that's a neat story. I'm glad nothing else happened. Sounds like maybe someone or something was just passing through. Uh, Hopefully so. But it is amazing. I think over time, as electronics become more and more, I mean, not that they're not already almost everywhere, but I think, especially as more people from sort of this new technological age, if you want to call it that, um, once they sort of transition into whatever comes after this physical form, if there's still energy, I would think that this number of possible connections between the paranormal and strange experiences and technology, I think that's only going to increase. Um, I've even noticed that over the years. I remember, I don't even know, probably more than that, 10 years ago or more, when I heard about any kind of electronic devices being affected, it was usually just lights, or sometimes it would be phones. There would be strange phone calls from a number that belonged to someone that had passed. There would even be the voice of that person after they had passed. Um, let me see here. What do you call them? Voice messages from those people after they passed. So I've heard of mainly phones and then lights, a lot of those. But over the years, I started hearing one or two here and there stories of computers and other what they call smart devices also being affected. So I think that's only going to increase here as time goes on. So interesting story there. I think I have time for one more story today, and then we'll be done. So let me see here. Okay, this one says, two friends and I were performing Grease at a local playhouse. One night, a friend started telling a joke during the time leading up to our entrance into the play. We were outside of a door that would lead to the stage, but they fell silent as they said they saw a hunchbacked creature resembling the rake, and I'll get back to what that is when I'm done here, running through the woods. Not threatened, as there were three of us and had already left the area, we waited for our entrance and continued the performance. Days later, I saw a gray flash of light in the distance, out near the woods. I would appreciate any thoughts on what we encountered. So this story is, I really wonder about this story, if the things that the writer and their friends saw, if they were the same thing or something different. Now, regarding the rake, that is supposedly a tall figure, skinny figure. I forgot to look this up. Skinny figure, basically white, all white, and just really somewhat menacing. Usually, from what I remember, but and it's just some sort of a cryptid kind of a being, if I'm thinking of the right one. But either way, this creature that people have seen before, and if you look it up, it's actually at least in the article here. I totally forgot to look that up. It's spelled Rake, and if you just look up rake and then paranormal or cryptid, that might get you some images of it, drawings anyway, or computer drawings or anything like that. But I wonder if was that the same thing as the flash of gray light that was seen later? Are they two separate things? Is that just an active area? I don't know. I wonder if cryptids, again, you hear about different creatures that seem to be able to appear and disappear, sort of either through a kind of cloaking or turning invisible or possibly going through dimensions. And so the light, I don't blame the writer for maybe thinking that it was connected to this creature that they saw, their friend saw. But also, I think it's hard to know. And I don't blame them for thinking it could be connected, because if you're not looking into these things, you might not hear about places where multiple things happen. And it's not just going to the major categories again, which I don't like to do, but it's not just ghosts, but in an area where you hear about ghosts being seen, there's also reports of, let's say, Bigfoot or UFOs. So there are areas where there just seems to be paranormal activity of different kinds. And so I wonder if that was the case, but if it's not, if it's the same creature, then that's just as amazing. I'm glad that it never really approached anyone. And so there was never any any danger there, but so yeah, neat sighting there, neat story. And I think that's all the time I have for stories for today. Just a reminder, I am going to be attending the Mid-Michigan Paracon later this year, November 4th and 5th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. And so I'm not going to be. I'm just going to be there in the middle of all the crowd and everything. Just just checking it out, and hopefully, if I can, getting some audio that I can share on future shows. And so yeah, looking forward to that. I'll be bringing a audio recorder and everything, and so if anyone wants to go check that out, I'll be including a link to that event on the episode description. I've been including it lately, every time, and for every episode. And I'll come to Denver. Sonia's about, yeah, I would love to travel further across the country, but between funds and then just logistics is not super easy. But maybe someday that'd be nice to travel around. But for anyone that is interested and is close enough to go, I'll like I said, the link to the event is always in the episode description now, and so if anyone is able to go, let me know, and maybe we can meet up there. I'm going for the whole weekend, but there are individual single day passes as well. So yeah, I always like to just mention that because I'm planning on going to that. So, and hopefully I'll be doing that every year from now on. And that's all I have time for today. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you all in the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.